Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is continuing the rejection from this major area of resistance as we're now officially seeing a long squeeze, wiping out long positions, wiping out liquidity that is sitting below the price of Bitcoin, as we now have new price targets in the short term that we need to pay attention to, which I'll talk about in just a moment for the price of Bitcoin, while Ethereum is also continuing the rejection from this key level of resistance in the short term, while the price of XRP is getting extremely close to breaking below a crucial area of support on the price chart. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the red, indicating a larger bear market or a larger correction in the price of Bitcoin. And we're also still playing out this massive bearish divergence on the weekly time frame. So basically, not much changed at all over the last one day in terms of the longer term trends that we're currently in for the price of Bitcoin. But if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart, of course, nothing's really changed for around a month now on this price chart, because we're still clearly in the multi-month bearish trend. But for the last 1 month or so, we've basically just been bouncing in a bit of a range at the moment between support and resistance. And so first of all, we have a key level of support here based on the local low and a psychological level of support sitting at $60,000 per Bitcoin. We also have a bit of short-term support around here at give or take 63,000, and also more support down here if the price were to actually get back down here in between 53,000 to 56,000, acting as the key levels of support to watch out for. And as for resistance, we have a lot of resistance in between around 72,000 to 76,000, which at least so far is exactly where the price has rejected from. And so at least for the time being, most likely over the coming days, possibly even another couple of weeks, it's likely will remain in this range for a little longer, bouncing from these points of support that I just mentioned, and of course rejecting from points of resistance, as we are currently seeing here in the short term. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, of course, over the last couple of days, we did see that short-term pullback, but just over the last 1 day, the pullback has started to slow a little bit. Of course, it is still looking weak, which is to be expected. Once again, in my last video, I said we're likely going to see a bit of weakness, lacking bullish momentum, most likely for the remainder of the weekend. We'll most likely see price action kind of like this for the rest of the weekend, which means at least over the next 1 day, expect basically this type of price action moving forward here in the short term. But it is quite likely that just over the next 1 day or so, the price will remain in a bit of a range here in between support and resistance. First of all, we have some key support here in the short term at around 65.5k to 66,000, and we have some short-term resistance here sitting at around 69,000 to 69.5k. And if the price breaks below that short-term area of support here, once again, we have more support closer towards give or take 63,000, as I mentioned earlier. And if we break out past this resistance at 69k to 69.5k, above that area, we have some key resistance closer towards 71 to 72,000. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that looking at the last 1 week worth of price action, obviously previously around half a week ago, we did see that bullish move, which wiped out liquidity that was above the price of Bitcoin. In other words, we were squeezing short positions during that bullish time right here. But right now we're seeing the exact opposite. We're seeing a bit of a squeeze on the long positions, wiping out some of the over leveraged long positions, obviously hitting these levels of liquidity along the way towards the downside, liquidating some longs. And so first of all, a couple of days ago, we wiped out this level of liquidity, which was sitting at just above $70,000, which I did mention previously on the channel. We also had a bit of liquidity building just recently that was just below the price of Bitcoin, which has now been wiped out. That was sitting at just above 67,000, around 67.2k, give or take. But right now, we still have more liquidity building below the price of Bitcoin. First of all, we have a decent area at around 65.8k to 66,000, and also another significant level of liquidity at almost exactly 65,000, around 64.9k to 65,000. And considering the fact that at least right now in the short term, we do have more liquidity just below the price of Bitcoin compared to what we have immediately above the price of Bitcoin, considering obviously we have already wiped out a lot of that upside liquidity with the previous bullish move. Now we're simply taking out the downside liquidity. Considering all of this information and considering what the weekend is looking like so far, it is quite likely that for the remainder of the weekend, so over the next day or so, it's likely we'll see a bit of weakness, not necessarily a huge collapse all the way to zero or anything like that, but a bit of weakness over the weekend, kind of like what we've seen over the last one day, is very likely over the next one day or so, but most likely still remaining in this range, and almost certainly, as always, no such thing as a guarantee, but extremely likely remaining in this larger sideways price range here on the 3-day time frame. And then depending on what the US stock market does in the new week when it opens back up again, that can heavily influence what direction the price of Bitcoin and really the overall crypto market goes, depending on what the stock market does when it opens in the new week. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, I will keep you up to date every day here on the channel about all of this information. And of course, when the stock market finally opens back up again. But while it's the weekend, of course, the stock market's closed, which means basically expect more of the same here for Bitcoin and crypto is a very likely scenario just in the short term. But remember, that shorter term move is occurring within this sideways price range here on the 3-day time frame, which is occurring within a much larger multi-month bearish trend. And so that is the situation. Those are my expectations and the key levels and price targets to watch out for moving forward. And of course, if you want to trade any of these moves in Bitcoin or any crypto, you need to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And if you use the first link below the video in the description and in the pinned comment, that first link below the video will take you to this page right here over on the 2bit crypto exchange, which by the way is a no KYC exchange and is an exchange that I personally use myself to trade crypto. And simply just by making your account using that first link below the video, once again, you can take advantage of major prizes happening right now for a limited time of up to 3.5 million USDT to be won simply just by trading crypto using that link below the video to 2bit. And on top of these major prizes here, which are available over on 2bit, if you're making your account using that first link below the video, only if you make your account using that link, you can also take advantage of extra exclusive bonuses only available using that link. As you can see right here, you can get an up to 200 USDT in actual withdrawable stablecoins, not just a trading bonus, simply just by trading crypto using that first link below the video. So obviously, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well check this out. Take advantage of all of this. Once again, first link below the video to 2bit. And remember, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, and of course, we can see short-term bullish moves and short-term bearish moves. But for the most part, in terms of the larger trend or the larger momentum that we're currently seeing on the price chart on the daily Bitcoin dominance chart, overall, it's still relatively neutral. We're basically bouncing around relatively sideways in the Bitcoin dominance, which means a lot of the major altcoins out there on average will still likely be performing very similar to whatever Bitcoin is doing. So keep that in mind. We're not really seeing a massive Bitcoin season or an altcoin season right now, just very similar performance across the market on average. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, of course, it's a very similar situation for Ethereum on the 3-day time frame as what we're seeing for Bitcoin on the 3-day time frame, which is indeed a larger multi-month bearish trend. Not yet confirms the end or the reversal out of that larger bearish trend, but in the short to mid-term, talking about a period of weeks, if not leading into months, of course, we have this slight little bullish relief, but for the most part, choppy sideways price action bouncing around, resetting the RSI over the last 1 month or so out of oversold territories on the 3-day time frame. And so all of that's playing out on the 3-day time frame. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, obviously over the last few days, we did perfectly reject from this exact area of resistance that I've been warning about for a long time now on the channel, sitting in between 2150 to 2250. So starting at just above 2.1k, especially closer towards 2.2k, we have strong resistance around there that once again I've been warning about for around a month now on the channel. Since the moment we broke below the area, that has been acting as strong resistance to watch out for. And once again, over the last couple of days, in fact around 3 days ago, give or take, we perfectly rejected from that exact area. So continue to expect strong resistance in that area. And as for support, we have strong support right here sitting at just above 1.8k, around 1810 to 1820. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 4-hour Ethereum price chart, we can see some short-term support right here sitting at approximately 1.9k or just above 1.9k, so around 1910 to 1930. $1.30 approximately as a key area of support to watch out for in the short term for the price of ETH. And of course, just in the short term for the remainder of the weekend, we're likely going to see a bit of weakness here, most likely slowing the pullback. So not as much bearish price action compared to around a day ago, for example. Will likely slow down a little bit, but still show a bit of weakness, still lack bullish momentum for the remainder of the weekend is very likely, quite possibly retesting some support levels like this one right here. And so ultimately expect very similar price action for Ethereum as what I said for Bitcoin just earlier in the video. And if we're taking a look at XRP on the weekly time frame, in terms of the longer term trend, we're still obviously looking bearish, clearly looking bearish right now in terms of the larger bearish trend, still playing out the massive bearish divergence on the weekly XRP price chart. But just in the somewhat shorter term, over the last few weeks, we have been running into and holding this crucial area of support here, sitting in between around $1.30 to $1.40. And right now, as of recording this video, the price of XRP is once again testing that area of support in between $1.30 to $1.40. And if we actually confirm a break below that area, so for example, if we see, let's just say, a weekly candle close below $1.30, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, in that situation, we could likely easily see a move in the price of XRP down towards around $1.13 approximately as the next significant level of support. And below that level, the next significant area of support is sitting in between around 90 cents to $1. And so yes, you heard that right. If we see a confirmed break below $1.30 and fail to get back above that area, which we've not seen right now, but I'm saying if that confirms, then that will significantly increase the probability that we could see a move in the price of XRP potentially below $1 at around 90 cents to $1 as another major area of support. And so just be aware of that potential risk that could be growing here if we break below this key support at around $1.30 to $1.40, which we are testing right now. But obviously, in case you're new to all of this, you can actually profit from those sort of moves using things like short positions, for example, to actually profit along the way towards the downside. So even though things are looking bearish right now, especially on the larger time frames, do not be fooled. You can still profit in the crypto market if you know what you're doing, using things like shorts to profit during the bearish price action. Or if you're not really a futures trader, if you're more of a spot trader, you can simply just wait and be patient and wait for some lower prices to accumulate crypto at some cheaper prices, potentially, if you're more of a long-term holder. So there's different strategies to continue to profit and take advantage of this market, no matter what the price really does. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day XRP price chart, of course, over the last 1 month or so, we've been perfectly playing out the oversold signal exactly as predicted in the 3-day XRP RSI. But remember, an oversold signal does not necessarily guarantee that we've hit the bottom for the larger bearish trend. It's possible we could ultimately see a continuation of the bearish trend at some stage later on. Obviously, right now we're still trying to play out this signal, which means we could still kind of just chop around relatively sideways in the shorter term here. But once again, we've not yet confirmed a reversal out of the larger bearish trend, which means we're not in the clear yet. It is entirely possible we could see a continuation lower later on. So keep that in mind. And in terms of the immediate short-term moves, really just follow Bitcoin and Ethereum to figure out what is likely going to happen in the immediate short term for the remainder of the weekend. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 3-day time frame, it's a very similar situation here. Of course, the larger multi-month trend still technically bearish, but the short to midterm is that we're still bouncing in this range right here, playing out mostly choppy sideways price action with a slight lean in the bullish direction for the last 1 month or so, which is exactly what I predicted every day for the last 1 month. Obviously, here on the channel, you can watch any one of my videos over the last 1 month. I've been talking about this exact price action right here in this range. Of course, we have this support still sitting at around $75 to $80. We have this area of resistance still sitting at around $95 to $105. And I'd also expect some resistance at give or take $90 as well as a psychological level of resistance. And if we're zooming further to the short term, taking a look at the 2-hour Solana price chart here, just on the 2-hour time frame, we have actually just hit oversold for the first time since around end of February, as we can see. And usually when we hit oversold on the 2-hour RSI, that's a signal telling us that we're starting to go too far to the downside too quickly just in the short term. And we need a little bit of time very soon, most likely within the next day or so, to start some sort of little reset out of oversold, which doesn't necessarily mean a huge bullish move. It can just be maybe a slight little bounce, maybe even just a sideways consolidation, but basically slowing down the bearish price action in the coming hours, maybe over the next one day, is quite likely, just in order to help to reset the RSI out of oversold with just a slight little relief, a little bit of a break from the bearish price action here in the coming hours, maybe over the next one day. And we do actually have a bit of short-term support here based on these lows, as we can see, sitting at approximately $82.30. So just above $82, expect some support around there, of course. And we do actually have a risk of a possible head and shoulders pattern forming if we see a further bounce from this point and then eventually break back below that area. Obviously, that would be a possible bearish price pattern forming right now, but not yet confirmed. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Chainlink on the 3-day time frame, it's a very similar situation for Chainlink. Once again, larger or longer term trend, still technically bearish, but the short to mid-term situation still bouncing in this range with a slight bullish lean, as we can see, slightly leaning towards the bullish direction, bouncing from this support, rejecting from this resistance. First of all, we still have a lot of support in between around $7.90 to $8.50, and a lot of resistance in between around $9.50 to $10. So continue to expect support at support and rejections or struggle at resistance. And of course, we're still also trying to play out this oversold signal, which means we're likely going to remain in this range for at least the next few days or so, possibly even a bit longer than that. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Chainlink price chart, looking at the short-term moves, obviously, once again, over the last couple of days, we've continued to pull back a little lower, now testing this key area of support, at least in the short term, which is sitting in between around $8.60 to $8.70. And so in the coming hours, maybe over the next day or so, it's likely we could hold this area, or at least start to slow down the bearish price action around this area on the price chart very soon. But if we ultimately break below this area of support with confirmation, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, in that situation, we'd likely see a move down towards these lows down here. So basically into this massive area of support below $8.50, most likely closer towards the lower $8 area, around $8.10, $8.20, for example, as the next key support to watch out for if we first break below around $8.60 to $8.70, which is the current short-term support we are now testing. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to take advantage of massive bonuses only available using those links to certain exchanges. And if you want to actually know how you can trade these moves, no matter what direction the price goes, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen, because the video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.